Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. When it comes to the launch of Verdansk, obviously there is a ton of hype behind it. It's probably going to be the most anticipated update for Warzone, maybe ever, but definitely this year within Black Ops 6 Warzone. But with that being said, now that Verdansk has been delayed obviously until the start of April with the launch of Season 3, I did want to go through and discuss some pretty important things when it comes to the launch of Verdansk, things that I would hope would be addressed before the launch, if not shortly thereafter or even alongside it, because Verdansk as a map is going to be awesome. It's going to be very, very cool to go and drop back into the first ever Warzone map, relive a lot of that nostalgia and a lot of those engagements and have that as an experience again, right? It's going to have a huge resurgence in players, no pun intended, but there are going to be so many people coming back that maybe haven't touched Warzone in quite some time to relive Verdansk, to see what it's all about. They are going to, obviously play heavy into that nostalgia with the other leaks and rumors that we've seen so far. So there will be hype behind Verdansk, but I've said it a bunch of times already. I'll probably continue to say it as we get closer and closer to the launch of Verdansk. Just Verdansk as a map itself is not going to be an instantaneous fix for all of Warzone's issues. There are so many things beyond just the map or the content at hand that play into the Warzone experience and the Call of Duty experience as a whole. The map is not going to be the end-all be-all answer. Oh, Verdansk is back, guys. Everything is fixed. That's just not the case, right? It may be part of a distraction that, maybe overshadows some of those major flaws for a temporary amount of time, for a very limited amount of time. But then people will realize, oh yeah, I'm playing on Verdansk, but this is still an issue, so that's lessening my gameplay experience. And that's still an issue, so that's lessening my gameplay experience. And yeah, Verdansk is cool, but it's kind of annoying running into this stuff. So I've got a little handy dandy list written down of things that I think Warzone and Call of Duty need to address before Verdansk, with Verdansk's launch, or shortly thereafter to make Verdansk as successful as possible. First couple of things here, obvious talking points that we've brought up so many times on this channel throughout the years. Servers being the first thing. Just simply playing the game. It doesn't matter how cool the map is, how awesome the guns feel, how cool your camos look, whatever. If you are playing the game and you are lagging, your gunfights feel inconsistent, you are getting packet burst, you're stuttering, there's high ping, all these things related to the servers, well then all that cool content, that super cool gameplay experience is invalid. It's overshadowed because you can't actually experience the full potential of it because your gameplay is constantly being hindered or limited by the bad servers. Call of Duty servers are years overdue from being upgraded and updated. This has been a topic that I have repeatedly hammered on this channel for years. Back in Warzone 1, we talked about it where, we'd start to see integrations happen for Call of Duty and for Warzone. It's like the Cold War one drops and it's like, okay, hit reg's starting to feel a little bit weird. Some funky things are going on with the servers. We probably need an upgrade. And then we didn't see one heading into Caldera and the Vanguard integration. It's like, okay, well now just everything's amplified even more. We really need these updates. And then we got the engine overhaul and the engine update with Warzone 2, the new era. Surely there's going to be significant updates there, right? No, not at all, right? There might have been some changes in the back end. There might have been adjustments here and there. But clearly, now that we've been on the Warzone 2 engine and that newly updated engine for years now throughout Modern Warfare 2022, Modern Warfare 3, and the first part of Black Ops 6 here, it's not getting better. If anything, it's getting worse as we see more integrations happen, more crazy stuff happen in the gameplay experience. The movement becomes more advanced. There's more tech being added in, and yet the servers are being left behind. And it's so insanely apparent in game when there is a packet burst situation, little icon popping up on your screen constantly, when your ping is way higher than it should be, when you know the data centers that you are near that you should be connecting to, right? When you are getting crazy stutters in game, when it seems like you shot a guy 20 times, but they shot you 6 times, and then you lost the gunfight, or you shot first, but then you died first because the desync and the lag comp is so insane, the tick rate is so behind, right? They need an update and an upgrade here. And it's Microsoft owned. It is Activision published. There is essentially an infinite amount of money that could be invested in this because every single fall COD's dropping the new title and they are making billions in a weekend. Every single season they're dropping 50, 60, 70 store bundles, whatever the number is, right? And they are making millions and millions, if not billions of dollars exclusively off of those microtransactions every single year, the battle passes, everything like that. There is an option. There is such a clear route to upgrades here. Why it hasn't happened, maybe it's on a technical standpoint, and that's something that I'm just ignorant to. 100% could be the case. We'll always admit that. But you have to realize from the outside POV here, from the customer and from the player POV, there's just not really an excuse as to why Call of Duty, one of, if not the biggest name in gaming in the world, does not have adequate servers for their player base. Even when the player base is dwindling, the server experience doesn't get better. So long overdue there. And if Verdansk has server issues, that's going to be a turnoff for a ton of players. Right alongside that, again, not a new topic, but something that still is long overdue for significant updates, the anti-cheat. Now, according to the Call of Duty blog, we're going to have a slight anti-cheat up here, and I can actually pull this up here on the COD site as I'm recording this. But I mean, with this, the anti-cheat, it's been a joke for pretty much ever since its inception. We were so excited to see Ricochet added in, and then while yes, it's stopped cheaters here and there, it's always been a reactionary anti-cheat. It's not a full kernel level anti-cheat like Riot's Vanguard system is, which would probably be obviously way more invasive, but also way stronger at actually stopping cheats. It's never been preventative. It's always been reactionary. Someone cheats for 10 games and then they get banned. Someone ruins a tournament and then they get banned. It's not they booted up the game and they got banned before they could get into a match, or they only played one game and then they got permabans. And then they go through and they create a new account and then that one gets banned. And then they create a new account and then that one gets banned. So many flaws to the Ricochet system. Season 3 is supposed to have a multitude of new tech, including a brand new system to authenticate legit players and target cheaters. Will it work? I mean, this is coming after the Season 2 anti-cheat update, which was supposed to be the big new thing for the year, and it didn't really seem that noticeable outside of the first few days, like always with any anti-cheat update they do. So, again, similar to the server situation. If you're jumping back on Verdansk, awesome. You're running through Superstore. You're frying. You got the best guns. You got the meta loadout. You turn a corner, insta-dead. Somebody knew you were coming. They had walls. They had aimbot. They fried you. You didn't have a chance. Game ruined. It's just like the Warzone 1 experience, where every other gunfight was a cheater aimbotting you and aimlocking you from, a million miles away. It's just something that is insane that Verdansk back in the day had a significant cheating issue, and unless something happens in the next couple of days or alongside the Season 3 launch, Verdansk, as it returns half a decade later, is going to have a very similar significant cheating issue. There at this point is basically nothing to add to this conversation because we have talked about it so many times and essentially nothing has changed. I see these comments here and there saying, hey, why don't you talk about the anti-cheat more? Why don't you address their cheating stuff more? And it's like, I've done it a ton. If there was something new that I could add to the conversation, trust me, I would. But there's just been no developments in anything here. There's been no substantial changes, and the points that we make, the issues with it, have stayed the same the entire time. And it's just kind of mind-boggling, honestly. And I can piggyback off the anti-cheat issues with the shadow ban system, something that really, in theory, shouldn't even have to exist if the anti-cheat was actually good. The shadow ban system does not work. In theory, the idea of flagging suspect accounts and putting them into matchmaking with other suspect accounts while they get reviewed is great because it's going to make those cheaters play against other cheaters. And when COD first announced that, it was like, oh, that's awesome. That's like they're trolling the cheaters, right? If you get caught cheating or you get reported a bunch because you're obviously aimbotting or wall hacking or whatever, you're going to get put into lobbies with just the same people who are doing the same junk, right? However, it just backfired because innocent player after innocent player after innocent player gets shadow banned, and then they can't play the game for a week, and then they hope that they can get out of that shadow ban. They get cleared because they're not cheating. Then they play a couple more games and they get reported again. Maybe they're just a good player, right? And then they get shadow banned again. And then they're stuck in this loop of shadow ban after shadow ban after shadow ban. And then you can't even play the game because actual cheaters are also getting shadow banned. And then you get put in those lobbies and you're either playing with a bunch of other people who the entire text chat is saying, you guys falsely shadow banned too? You guys cheating either? Nope. Yep. We're all just stuck in limbo here, right? Or you're playing an actual entire lobby of just real cheaters because they were also reported in shadow bans. The system can and has been abused since its inception. The system has not accurately flagged cheaters as opposed to innocent players since its inception. It needs a major overhaul and a rework, and probably needs to be done away with, like I said, if the actual anti-cheat worked as it should. The entire situation just flat out sucks because players who just want to play the game, either because they're good or because it's their hobby and it's fun and it's that escape for them, get shadow banned and then they can't. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's not like you can build up a trust score after getting shadow banned to say, hey, clearly last time when you guys shadow banned me, I got released out of the loop because I'm not cheating. Why can I get instantaneously flagged? You know, it's just the whole system. Like I said, there's no other way to put it. Truly, this is the same thing as the anti-cheat. Why don't you talk about the shadow bans more? You know, how come you haven't said anything about this? I have dozens of times, and the talking points are the same every single time because nothing gets communicated, nothing gets updated. They don't fix anything with it, which just, like I said, flat out sucks. Now, beyond some of the more obvious things here, there's a few other points I want to bring up with the other things I would hope for with the return of Verdansk, or before the return of the Verdansk map, primarily relating to gameplay here. Something that was obviously very nostalgic, or is very nostalgic with Verdansk gameplay, is the engagements, the fights you took on Verdansk. I still to this day vividly remember certain fights that we had on Verdansk because of the weapons and how they felt, or how chaotic it was, or whatever. And currently in game, while yes, you can bring back Verdansk and there'll be a similarity and a familiar feel there, the engagements at this point in time are going to feel very different. Weapon behavior is going to be completely different. While yes, we have relatively low recoil weapons now, the way that they perform and behave is very different from back in Warzone 1. Long range in specific here, the close range is going to be similar because there's only so much variety you can have in a close range fight, as opposed to a long range fight, which can take place at 50, 60, 70, 150 meters, right? With a sniper that's got a 20 times zoom, or an iron sight growl, right? Like, you had so much diversity in long range fights, and they were all practical and they were all viable because you had low visual recoil weapons with high velocity numbers and good damage ranges. And now Warzone's not necessarily that. A lot of fights seem to be focused and pushed towards happening within like 60 or 70 meters max, unless you're using an infinite one-shot range sniper. But then even those feel a little bit clunky. They've got the sniper category in general super limited, only one-shot headshots within 70 meters, or only one-shot headshots within 80 meters. So that limits your long-range capabilities. The ones that can one-shot beyond that have really weird velocity, so there's a ton of bullet drop and bullet lead. The main rifles and LMGs right now, your velocities can get kind of high, like up to 1,000, 1,100 if you go all in on that stuff, but then you're missing stats in other categories. And so those long range fights don't feel as good because the bullet drop, the bullet lead, the hit scan range is entirely different, as opposed to Warzone 1, where, you know, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 velocity stat weapons were pretty frequent, and they made those long range gunfights feel awesome and feel consistent. And so that's a pretty significant gap right now that is going to be very noticeable when you first start playing Verdansk. And it's like, okay, I used to fight with my Grau or my AMAX or my Kilo here, and it felt fantastic. And now I'm doing it with an XM4 or a Cypher or whatever the case is, whatever example you want to use. And it's like, yeah, it's just, they don't hit like they used to, right? The weapons don't feel as consistent as they used to. I'm trying to fight from this building that I always used to snipe from, and it's just not the same. So I'd love for them to try and refocus the weapon stats more towards those classic Warzone 1 ones. Obviously, there needs to be a balance there, and Warzone 1 obviously had a lot of imbalances, but they've learned from that, and I think you can sort of balance that with the similar feel to Warzone 1 guns, and so the engagements will feel nostalgic and they'll feel like they did before, but also still keeping that main meta balance that you need to have either between weapons individually or weapon categories, right? And also, while we're on the topic of weapons, Black Ops 6 guns still dominating the meta. If we're going back to Verdansk, a map that originates in Modern Warfare, and we have 100 plus Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 weapons in the game, it'd be awesome to have some of those actually as true contenders. You know, we have things like the M4, the M16, the MP5s, or the Lockman subs as they're known now, the MP7s. These classic weapons that we used to use back on Verdansk are in the game in their newly updated versions. But for the most part, I mean, honestly, they suck. They're competitive enough that if you wanted to use it and you knew what you were doing, you could get some kills. But if you run into good players using Black Ops 6 guns, you're probably not winning, right? And so there is still that significant era gap where Black Ops 6 weapons absolutely have the upper hand. When you've got 200 some weapons in the game across all these titles, why not have a lot of them be competitive, especially when you're playing off that nostalgia, so you can go back and recreate some of those OG Warzone loadouts, and you can have some of those nostalgic and classic Modern Warfare guns being practical and being viable on the map where it all started. So I'd personally love to see more balance updates to those older era MW2 and MW3 weapons to make them more competitive across the board, and have the ability to relive some of those gunfights and some of those engagements with those classic guns as well. Mostly though, the major concerns with the Verdansk launch are going to be those things that impact every little portion of gameplay. cheaters and servers being the main two there. So we'll see in the coming days how this evolves, what's going to be coming alongside, what's the emphasis going to be with Verdansk. Obviously, as new things are announced and revealed, I'll be keeping you guys in the know for all of it. So feel free to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date. And if you enjoyed this video, you want to shine more light on it, ideally have that positive impact on the game, do me a favor, drop a like on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.